Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Manatee Local, and this is a special video with Parrish News Network. I've got Dalton Nelson here, local activist, and Dalton lives up in Parrish, and in the Parrish area, and he lives up there, and he has been really attacking the problem of what happened with the flooding with Hurricane Debby. The county commissioned a study, but apparently the study didn't quite answer the question that people were demanding an answer to. So the study that was released, the results were released this week in the stormwater meeting on the 19th of February. It answers a question that seems to be pointed toward Summerfield in Lakewood Ranch, as to whether or not the dam release affected them. And I think I could kind of agree that the answer to that is probably no. But that's not the question that the folks in Parrish wanted answered. When they released the dam, I'm ex-military, and in that whole situation was reportedly a big Charlie Foxtrot. So I'm not going to explain what that is. Keep it, this.
Keep it PG.
Keep it PG, and it's a big Charlie Foxtrot, and we really want to get down to it. So, but first, Dalton, I want you to explain to everybody who you are, what you do. I'll have links in the description for the Parrish News Network YouTube site and any other pertinent documents and stuff. So, Dalton, go for it.
Yes, ma'am. My name's Dalton Nelson. I'm a Florida local, not necessarily local to this area, a little bit north of here, but I've been born and raised in Florida. I have a blue collar background, working on job sites, doing site development, putting in a lot of the structures that we're talking about in this work session, stuff like that. I understand the flow of water very well. I understand, basic principles of Robert's Rules of Order and stuff like that. It's not hard to understand this stuff if you've been dealing with it for as long as I have. And we flooded like we ain't never flooded before, and I took an interest in it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Started digging into it, started getting into the facts, and it's like, this goes deep. The situation's hard. It's hard to discuss. It's a multi-faced problem. I could talk for hours about it. That's just point blank period. But we're not going to talk about hours. We're going to talk about minutes here, and we're going to try and make everything concise for everybody and make it make sense.
All right. Yeah. So we've been kind of talking over what happened with Hurricane Debby. So as most everyone knows, Hurricane Debby was out in the Gulf for quite a distance, actually something like 90 miles off the coast, and it was moving kind of slowly. And then as it came in, the estimates of how much rain we were supposed to get increased over time. And it got to the point where Lake Manatee, which is really the source of our drinking water, or most of it, they had to release the dam. This big dam, they dammed this up in the 1960s. And so you can see right here, the official gates here, the Lake Manatee Dam. But what they had to do was, one of those gates wasn't working, and it's been a problem, and they knew about it. But they did is they released these earthen plugs. And so as you can see, it's actually, I'm going to go down here. This is actually from 2025. So this map data, this photo is from this year. Okay. So Google has done the flyover and gotten the satellite imagery and gotten the plugs here. So there are 8 of these plugs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 5, 6, and 7 were released during Hurricane Debby. And as you can imagine, that's a whole ton of water. How much was it? 18 billion gallons, you said?
18 billion gallons is the guesstimation. They don't have an official number, but that's the estimated.
Okay. All right. So that, obviously now it's coming out here into this floodplain. You can see where, the Manatee River curves and bends, and you have the old historical town of Rye, which I guess that got flooded very badly. Would have been wiped out. But along here, Woodstock Road, that would have been wiped out. This whole area is swelling the river. But these developments, because they're newer and on higher elevation, probably didn't get the kind of damage that some of these other places did. But these older,
Right.
low-lying, right on the ground properties, they would have gotten wiped out too with that
Yeah,
much.
they got hammered hard. That whole area got hammered hard. And I did a lot of digging on Facebook, and one of the people right around in that area took a picture. You'll have to find it. The water is almost to the bottom of the bridge
Oh my
at
goodness.
peak. Yeah, it's crazy the amount of water that they released. And the amount of rain. I mean, the rain was horrible too.
Yeah, the rain was what, 16 inches? Something like 15, 16 inches?
15, 16 inches on average throughout the county. There's pockets of 18,
Okay.
but 15 inches is solid.
Okay. At least 15 inches. Okay. So
Yeah,
already flooding and just exacerbated by 18 billion gallons of water. Okay.
right,
All
right.
right. Okay. So, wow. All right. So let's see. So the study, tell us about your understanding of what people went through when they released the dam, and how they found out the dam was being released. Talk to us about that.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and keep this short. In short, of a lot of people didn't know the dam was getting released. That's the first point. There's a lot of mixed information. Floodwaters were rising. People were asking, if the dam had been released. County workers didn't know. The guys that are on the ground monitoring conditions. The police didn't know. The fire department didn't know. A lot of them, like iPause messages, reverse 911, a lot of stuff went out late. It was incorrect, like typos, or they just didn't come at all. I got a message on Monday, I think at like 2 o'clock. My wife didn't get anything. We're side by side, in the same area. There was just a lot of inconsistency on the messaging. They said they put a lot of stuff out on Facebook, but from my experience, like half the people in Manatee County aren't on their Facebook page.
Mm.
So, it's just a lot of really mixed messaging, to be honest.
Yeah. That's hard. So what is the normal protocol that you know of for communicating to people when they're going to release the dam?
In a thorough, like they know they're going to have to release water, which is something they do all the time. I mean, I want to preface that they do this all the time. If they have to release a lot of water, the properties that are known to have effects from significant release, they get a phone call. It's like a reverse 911 call if it's really like emergent, like they need to get out now. If it's just kind of general, they have like a little phone book they go through and they give everybody a call, say, hey, we're going to release some water. And then, text messages go out, stuff like that. It's pretty standardized. Everything goes through a vetting process. It gets triple, double checked. Everybody kind of knows what's going on.
Okay.
Obviously wasn't the case in this, in this scenario, but.
Yeah, I think that standardized list was not up to date considering the volume of water that they needed to release. And so that's probably something that they could probably check into or make suggestion for as a future agenda item, to get an update on that, to see that the county is aware of actually who they need to contact when we're doing that level of release of water.
Right, and there is actually a phone number. You can find it on Google Maps down there for the wastewater treatment facility, and you can say, "Hey, I want on the list. I was affected." It's down by the main. Yeah, that one right there. If you click on that, it gives you a phone number. You can talk to the operator on site, and you can actually get on that list. It's a pretty simple process. Just a lot of people aren't on it. A lot of people have landline phones. They call them, they're disconnected, that sort of thing.
Okay, excellent. Well, and I don't know if people can see it. I'm going to make it bigger. There, 941-746-3020. Okay,
Yep.
All right, excellent. So that's useful. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I need to reset my thing here. Okay, fantastic. So, all right, so we heard the big Charlie Foxtrot. Some people didn't get called. Maybe they didn't know to call some of these people. They weren't on this list. Maybe that is that the problem. what do you think we could do to improve that? Other than, 'cause are they gonna have to mail people's houses and say, hey, if your house was flooded during the dam release, are you on this list to get notified? And what?
Yeah.
Is that what you think they should do?
I mean, they could have done a lot by just having sheriff's vehicles roll around on loudspeaker and say, "Hey, we have a situation. You're going to be affected. Put your emergency plan into gear and get out. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. Just leave." And that could have took care of a lot of people at the same time. The same way they're hearing the same message.
But do we actually have enough sheriff's officers to do that? I mean, is that too much on MCSO? Because people,
No.
they're out on the roads when they shouldn't be, and they got to deal with that crap too down inside around the county.
I mean, I used to work like a public works job with a local municipality. I mean, when these events come about, even if they're minor events or major events, it's all hands on deck. And I know that's the same for the sheriff's office, the same for the fire department. Like, everybody's there, everybody's on call. So you get the call, you got to go in. I don't think that was really like a burden that they placed on them. I mean, the flooding was definitely widespread, but it wasn't something that they couldn't handle systematically. They had time.
Okay. And are you familiar with the CERT team, the Community Emergency Response Team?
I am. I have had some correspondence with them. They're really good. Not affiliated with Manatee County program.
Okay.
They're privately funded. They're private organization. They do a lot of good for the community.
Okay. Do you know what they were doing around this time with Debby? Because I feel like maybe we're not leveraging them enough, because there's on the website for them.
They're to be quite honest with you, I don't honestly know what they were doing. I mean, I know, they've got high water vehicles, they've got boats and other assets they can deploy. They're pretty centrally located to Parrish, 675 area. It's just a lot of, when you're talking about, when we flooded on the 5th, it was just a lot of area to cover. To give you an example, this is something that I personally experienced. I left my place on the 5th at 9 a.m. I tried to get back at 10:45-ish, and the floodwaters had already rose 3.5 feet in that about an hour and a half span, and 675 road became impassable. They shut it down. Like, the sheriff's office said, you cannot go past here anymore. It's unsafe. So the water, and see, that was the other thing. Like, nobody knew the dam was being opened, and that was about the same time they released it about 10 o'clock, I think, is the accepted time. And the water rose very significantly, very fast.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that, we're unfortunately learning in retrospect. Hindsight's always 20/20 as to what you should have done, and maybe not having enough people on that roster to alert them, having a standard protocol. And granted, the conditions were changing very quickly. So I'm trying to be charitable here. When you've got that level of change happening that fast, it's very hard to turn on a dime. Government just doesn't turn on a dime. And even then, even if you wanted to, you're talking about tens of thousands of people needing to turn on a dime. That ain't happening. The most you can do is try and broadcast, as best you can to reach everyone with using the emergency management system, the phone calls, and that whatever the cell phone thing. What happened with the cell phone alerts?
Well, and that's kind of the thing, they didn't really utilize the emergency management system. They just did local, like local 911 reverse and iPause messages, which they have said that there is a delay between them sending the information to the carrier and then the carrier dispersing it to the towers that are in that area. So there is a lag. It's not a perfect system. It's just not. I mean, radio, the news, like all of that stuff could have been used in that 24-hour window before when we were getting all the rain and they were seeing that things were significantly worse than what they were predicting in the beginning to really get that messaging out. I mean, that's what they should have done.
Right.
You know, they shouldn't have waited till the morning of where everybody started flooding. They're like, well, sorry.
Yeah. People should have had their go bag and have a
Yeah.
plan for their animals. Because I remember seeing that, was it Chris Whitaker's drone video of over like the animals being in the water? They should have had a go bag and they should have had a plan for their animals, or at least to try and move their animals in case, you know, it got that bad. I mean, granted, again, an hour and rising a foot in an hour is really significant. You know, I don't.
Well, it's like 3 feet in an hour. I mean, you know,
hour.
3 feet in an hour is crazy. And I'm glad that you bring that up. The video of those cows that are running through that pasture trying to find dry land, that's actually a neighbor of ours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. He got very lucky.
God bless it. Thank God.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think we as citizens should be asking for? Because we're going to obviously have to go back before the board and get the right answers to the right question, not Rex Jensen's question. So
the questions that we should be asking, one very important question, I highly suggest everybody look into it. The 2003 incident versus the 2024 incident. 20 years apart, why are they so much different? Why were things done the way they were done? Major question that nobody has any answers to. Another one is, you know, communication, like we just talked about. Don't need to rehash that. A third thing is, you know, how can we more effectively engage the public, you know, to educate them on some of the issues of our area, you know, like, do these parts flood? How to find your flood zone? If are you in a floodway? You know, I mean, these are all common questions that we need to touch on, and the public needs to be very versed in when they move into this area. Like, I heard from plenty of people, they're like, I didn't even know we had a dam. I didn't know that these were things here. You know, and we're talking about like people that are moving from Michigan. So, yeah, a lot of people just move here because it's sunny and the weather's nice, and they don't think about those things.
True. And you know, they have the resident information tool on the website.
Yeah.
They could include this information on the resident information tool. You know,
Well,
evacuate. I mean, they have the like evacuation level on there, but you know, maybe something else.
Not to interrupt you, but like the funniest thing is that after Debby, anybody that tried to use that tool to look up your flood zone, look up your evacuation zone, it was not even working during the time of all this, which is horrible to say. Like, everybody just got left out in the dark.
Yeah, a lot of systems did go down, you know, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, they just crashed and stayed down for days. I mean, everything was bad.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So obviously IT, they're needing some redundancy, maybe like even beyond, or so maybe I don't know if they have a cloud solution, you know, because if it was in the cloud, it would have been accessible as long as you had internet, you know, but I don't know what the deal is with their IT. But yeah. All right, so I think we have a plan, folks. You know, write this stuff down and get prepared, because we've got to go back before the commission, ask them, you know, to clarify further processes. You know, what really went wrong. I mean, there are some news articles out there, but I don't think that they've really, I don't know. It's not apparent anyway. It's not obviously apparent that they've done the kind of process review to make sure that they are covering people, and maybe get also, like I brought up before, the CERT teams. Like, how can we better manage these CERT teams? What are they doing? You know, get people more familiar with these different apparatuses that we've got for emergency response and coordinate them better, and just make sure we're on top of our communications. You know, I think that's really the biggest problem. People could have handled it better if we had better communication. I mean, especially the folks that needed to move their animals, you know, to risk, you know, and you can't move animals on a dime. Even in like an hour, you'd have problems moving it. So, but and
to touch on something really quick, you know, I mean, like for our property and where we were and everything, you know, we're very conscious of like when the water's going to rise and how our property floods and everything. Like, we know, we've experienced it over years. And we were working till like 11 or 12 o'clock on 8/4, like late into the night, moving cows, trying to get horses loaded up, trying to get donkeys moved in, like just trying to cover everything. And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, all this stuff that's on the ground, like it's all going to be fine. Like it's not going to be that bad. We've never flooded that bad before. And yeah, that was wrong. Like everything floated away. So,
Yeah.
it just goes to show you, like, you got to be conscious of your situation. You got to be prepared. I mean, that's something else.
Yeah. And I think the problem is, nobody in living memory had experienced quite this level of flooding and so fast. Maybe it would have
Yeah.
happened, but not so fast.
No, since 2003, 2003, like 2017, 2019, which was like Irma and Ian. Well, I actually might be wrong. 2017, I think it was a no name. Irma was 2019.
Mm.
And then you had Ian, which was like 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are all pretty significant events.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just that this level, I'm still floored by looking at that video, all those cows in that pasture and those
Right.
poor animals and those horses. I remember the horses that had gotten stuck and that they needed to try and move them, and they're fortunate.
Yeah, they had to swim them out. They waited there. I think they said that she waited there 3 extra days to try and swim the horses out. And something else, I mean, she like had to pay a bunch of medical bills for the horses because there's a lot of issues with them standing in floodwater for that long. I mean, this stuff is very complex, and it's like when you have more of a deep dive conversation, not to get too far in the weeds, but there's like so many different variables that you got to keep track of. Just as a regular person, not looking at it like data wise or factual wise, just looking at it as like an everyday person. You're trying to think of like, do I need to pick my stuff up off the floor? Do I need to wrangle my kids? Do I, like there's all sorts of different scenarios that a little bit of time, a little bit of preparation. Hey, it's storm season. Why don't we get our bags together? Why don't we find flashlights that work? People just become complacent, and complacency kills. That's like the number one slogan that people talk about is like complacency kills.
It sure does. And we're like, what, 100 days away from hurricane season starting again.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that we're gonna get, relief this year. Caroline Felt said that at the meeting. She's like, we don't know what's gonna happen this year. Nobody knows. So
Yep.
could flood again this year.
Yeah, we're so used to the storms forming off into the Atlantic, and then maybe it's got to hit that hairpin turn just right to hit us. Well,
Right.
This time it's 3 of them, and they all formed off in the Gulf, and then came and slammed right into us. So,
something else that I actually I want to touch on it very briefly because I think there's a lot of misconception out there, and you might find this interesting. And I promise again to keep it short, but don't play into the like 100-year storm, 500-year storm, 6,000-year storm. Like, don't play into that. All they're trying to say is that according to statistics, this is this much chance of happening in 600 years. We can have multiple of these events. Last year was key point in case within a single year. It's a term they use. Don't get caught up on it. Anything can happen in 1 year. So I just want to dispel that. That is misinformation. Don't, just because it's a 500-year storm, it's going to happen once in 500 years, because it's not that way.
No. But honestly, look, it's like some people want to deny whatever you wanted to call it, climate change, global warming. We all know the basic facts that when that water is hot, it's like Popeye popping a can of spinach, and the damn thing just powers up and it will slam. So if that Gulf is hot, it's gonna be bad. If the Atlantic Ocean is hot, it's gonna be bad. So that's just bottom line. Okay. All right, Dalton, thank you so much. This was a really good, informative thing. I think it would be a good idea if you want to do a video on preparation, especially for folks with animals. Maybe we should make it like a checklist. I'll be happy to share it when you put it out. As just a checklist for preparation, because we are 100 days out from another storm. So that'd be great. So All right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure we can work together on that. I'd love to keep cooperating with you. You know, it's nice to help a person out, and um, I'm sure we can come up with a list of stuff that, I mean, honestly, we should keep all year round. Stuff happens all parts of the year. It's not just during hurricane season, but
Right.
you
You're
know.
absolutely right. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for watching. We'll have linked stuff in the description and other videos,
Yeah.
and a link to Dalton's channel, Parrish News Network. Thank you so much, and have a great day or night whenever you're watching.